Hello there, welcome to the source of concept tutorial. In today's tutorial we are going to continue the part number 4 and 5 of our topic on how we can insert data from an Android application to MySQL database by using PHP. And this is the final part, and from here you will be good to develop an application that will insert data from Android application to MySQL database. By starting, let me show you something here which is very important to be used in our today's tutorial. In this XML file, we have written a lot of code here to make user be easy to interact with the application. But there is one thing which is very important for each design that you see here. From each palette here, there is something called an ID. This acts as a variable that holds a value that will be inserted through this palette. So when we are going to work with Java file, we will be use this ID to refer to this palette. Now let us open a Java file here. This is the Java file, and here is the area which we are going to use to write our functionality of this application. First of all, we have to declare an object from each palette. So if we have an edit text here, we have to declare an object for this, and if we have a button here, we have to declare an object for this. So let us type button, let me call it button send, because I have only one button here and also I have to use only one object. But here, because I have an edit text more than one, there is a 3 edit text, and here I must have 3 objects for each edit text. So I'll declare edit text, let me call it fname for full name, phone and address. After that, I have to typecast this variable to communicate with this ID. So here I'll type fname equal to edit text find view by ID. We're gonna fetch this palette by using its ID. Find view by ID means resource. Here ID means the ID of each palette. So I want to refer this variable to reference to this ID, so I will use this ID here to refer to the fname. Another one is phone. The last one for edit text is address. After that, I have to typecast a button by typing btn send equal to button. After that, I have to enable this button to be clickable, so I'll type btn send.set on click listener, and here I'll put this. So when you see this type of error, go to your class and implement an interface of view dot on click listener. This error will be disappear and rise up another error. And when you see this error, click Alt key and press enter your keyboard and implement a method. Choose on click method. After that, type a code that you want to be executed when this button is clicked. So if we have more than one button, we have to specify which button we want to execute which code. But because we have only one button, there is no need to specify it. But in case we need to specify, we have to write this switch. Here we type v to this object dot get id open switch and type case r.id.btn save. So whenever this button is clicked, it will execute the following piece of code. Let me show you some example here. If I will put a toast, let me change this to length readable. Okay, if I put this piece of code below of this case, it means that whenever this button is clicked, it will execute these lines of code. After that, break your case. Let us run it and see what will be happening when this button is clicked. installing APKs. Okay, the code is working fine. So after that, let us take this data that will be entered by user through this interface and push them to the database. But what we are doing here, we are going to execute this script. So the data that will be entered through the application will be sent here, and after that this MySQL statement will be executed and take those data from an application to the database. So the important thing is to create a connection between this script and the application, and after that we have to take the data from application and send here through the link that we will create. When the data is sent to this script, they are received with this variable, and this variable name is executed in this SQL statement and finally to be sent to the database. If the data is successfully inserted to the database, it will display this message saying that data inserted successful. But if the data is not successful to be sent to the database, it will return this statement that says data is not inserted successful. So we have to take this information to return back to our application through the link that we will define. By doing this, we have to implement a class here. Let me call it source of concept db and extend async task. When we extend async task, there is a generic type here. By default they avoid, and this first generic type is parameter, which means it is going to access a parameter of a certain function by using an index number. So let us change it to string and change it to string. This last generic type means the result that will be obtained after the method that contains first generic type has completed the execution. When you see this type of error, press Alt and press Enter on your keyboard to implement a method and choose Do in background. After that, implement an object of context here and implement a constructor for this class. Inside of it, give a parameter of context with the objects and then initialize an instance variable. Now let us create an object of this class that will be used to send the data by typing class name as source of concept. This is a constructor of this class, but if the constructor has a parameter as a context, you have to pass an argument as context also. Pass this as a context for this constructor. After that, use the object of this class to send the data to this class by typing in this method, pass the data that has to be sent to the database. But before we send to the database, they have to be sent in the class that is responsible to process them and finally sent to the database. We want to pass these three datas, but a good thing is to create a 3 variable for each. After that, initialize this variable to this value by typing this will take the value that will be entered through this field and initialize to this variable, and finally take this variable and pass to this execute method to be sent to this class. After that, go to this class and receive this data. But before receiving this data, we have to specify our connection that will connect this application and our PHP script here. So let me create string variable, specify a folder name that contains a PHP script as app, and specify a script itself, which is insert.php. Insert.php is our script here. So IP here, we have to put an IP address. If you are testing your application by using a virtual device like emulator, you have to put a default IP address for virtual device, which is 10.0.2.2. but if you are going to test your application by using a real device, you have to specify an IP address of your local machine. Because I'm going to test my application with the real device, I'll put an IP address of my local machine. Let me check it. Open a command prompt and type ipconfig. This is my IP address, and I have to copy and paste here. After creating this path, let us create some variable here to receive this data that will be sent from this class to this class. After that, create an object of URL by typing URL, and inside of this bracket pass your path. When you see this type of error, just press Alt key and press enter your keyboard to implement try and catch. Then open HTTP connection to start connection. When you see this kind of error, just press Alt key and press enter your keyboard to solve. After that, use an object of HTTP to set request method as post. We use post method because we want to post this data from this application to the PHP script, and I use this object to set do output to be true. This means that we allow a data to be exported from this application to the PHP script, and also, as we said earlier, that also we need some information from the PHP script to return back to this application, so we have to enable set do input to be true. After that, we have to create a string that will be used to pass the data from this application to PHP script by typing output stream. Let me give an object as an OS equal to http connection dot get output stream. After that, let me create a buffer writer to write our data before sent to the PHP script. This buffer writer we will use to write a data, and also we will use to send the data to the script, but we are sending the data by using an output stream that we have created here as an OS, and the format that the data should be sent to the script is UTF-8. After that, now let us create our data URL encoder, because this data should be encoded before sent to the script. Encode. Now this encode method needs two arguments. The first one is the string and the second one is the string encoding format. This string should be the same as the one of our script, so here we have to use post method as the one that we have defined in our application. Let me call it a name, copy and paste. So name, phone and address should be placed here. So I'll start the name and encoding format, and I initialize this variable from PHP with this variable that holds the value entered by user. So logically is equal to say variable name of the PHP is equal to the variable that holds a value from a user. So we have to receive this data that has been sent from this main activity to this source of concept DB by typing, change this to params. Why I put param of 0 here? Because these arguments is accessed by using an index number, and the index number is starting from 0. So to access these values, we have to use an index of 0, this 1 and this 2. So here name will take 0, phone 1, and address will take an index of 2. After that, put URL encoder dot encode name. So the variable of PHP is equal to value that has been entered by user here, and its universal format is UTF-8. Because we have 3 data and this is the one, the second one will be concatenated by ampersand as an AND. We will do the same thing to those 3 variables. Okay, after that, let us write this data by using object of bufferedWriter.write our data. After taking this data to our bufferedWriter, now we need to flash them to go to PHP script by typing bufferedWriter.flash and finally close it. After that, we need this information to inform us if the data has been successfully inserted to the database or not. So as we have allowed the input stream here, now let us create a streaming to receive those data from script by typing. After that, we have to use buffered reader to receive the information that will come from script. We will receive the information by using input stream reader, which we have defined here as an IS with the format of ISO-8859-1. After that, let us create 2 strings here. The first one is result with a default value of empty, and the second one is line that will be used to read each line inside of buffered reader with the default value as an empty. Then use while loop to read each line in buffered reader by typing while. If this statement is not equal to null, it means in the buffered reader there is a data, so we have to read them and add them to the result. So result, we initialize the value that will be taken by line in the variable of result. After that, close the buffered reader, close input stream, and finally disconnect an HTTP connection, and finally return result. This result is the value that will be obtained from the buffered reader, and buffered reader will get this value by using input stream, where this stream will receive data from the PHP script. But this error, we return a type of string, and we have to change this from void to string type, and finalize by changing this generic type to string. After finalizing this do in background method, now it's time to write a method that will give us an information or an output if the data has successfully inserted to the database or not. So press Ctrl and O from your keyboard and choose on post execute method. Just type this as a result. You may give a name that you need, but I prefer to use result because it gives me a result of the process. And let us display a message here if the data has succeeded or not. Let's here result, change here to length long.show. Okay, this result can be this or this. It depends on the execution of the SQL statement. To run this application, we have to provide an internet permission inside of manifest file, and after that we have to connect our mobile device and local machine by turning on hotspot on mobile device and connect the Wi-Fi of my local machine. So let's try to run and see what is going to happen. When I save it, it says data inserted successful. And now let us go and check our database if the data mama, home, and 666 has been inserted to the database. Our database is called information, and inside of information there is a table called student. Let's open it, and when we open this, there is a mama. Oh, we have misplaced the information. This number should be here and the home should be here. So let us go back to our PHP script. In our table there is a column name, then address, and final phone. Here we have a name, here should be address, and the final column should be phone. Because the changes is happening in the script, there is no need to run again. It need only test. I hope now you have a little understanding on how you can insert data from an Android application to MySQL database by using PHP. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment and share. Goodbye.